Hello and welcome to the Attorney Post, where we bring you the inside baseball scoop from top legal experts across the country. I'm your host, Justin West. All right, and we are live. Hello, everybody, again, and welcome to the Attorney Post, where we discuss what's going on in various facets of the law with lawyers who are at the top of their game to help you navigate the ins and outs of various legal fields and legal jurisdictions. Because, as always, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. I'm joined today with Mr. Goolsby. Casey Goolsby is a partner over at Boon, Calk, Echols, Coleman and Goolsby. So he is part of the eponymous name there. And we'll be talking about all of the various aspects of the law that he focuses on. Does a lot of business law. They do some injury litigation as well. So we'll have lots of things to talk about. First, we're going to jump over here. This is their website. You can visit Boon Law. Very quick and easy. Very, very long name. Boon, Calk, Echols, Goolsby and Goolsby. Very, very short URL. boonlaw.com. We will, as always, have links to that down in the show notes below as well. So please click over there and find them out. Here we can see Casey right here. We're going to do a read first from one of our sponsors. Actually, our sponsor today, one of our sponsors is injuryattorneyleads.com. So we're going to jump over here really quickly. Personal injury attorneys spend a lot of time and money on advertising, but it can be difficult to get qualified leads. You're paying for leads that are usually not qualified, or worse, you're getting leads from the internet that are no longer interested in talking to a lawyer, if you even get a hold of them. These leads can average anywhere from $100 to $500 per lead, and usually you can burn through 5 to 10 of them before you get a serious prospective client on the phone. The solution is injuryattorneyleads.com. InjuryAttorneyLeads.com has people reaching out to them all across the country. Those people fill out a form, and that's where most of the lead generation companies stop, simply giving you that information and making you chase down the prospective client. But InjuryAttorneyLeads.com is just getting started when that form gets filled out. They reach out to every single person who fills out a form and re-verifies their information on the phone before live transferring those qualified individuals to your law firm. These are only people who've been in an accident and who want to talk to a lawyer about their case. You can be sure that these potential clients meet your criteria for a qualified lead, and close rates can average around 60 to 70%. Set up a time to talk to a client generation specialist today by visiting injuryattorneyleads.com and clicking on any of the buttons, or using the calendar to schedule a time to talk. That's injuryattorneyleads.com. All right, so I am back, and here is Casey. Casey, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So Casey is kind of he's a man of many trades. It sounds like a man of many legal skills. He is again a partner with Boon, Calk, Echols, Coolsby and Goolsby. He focuses on civil litigation, personal injury, wrongful death, business, consumer, collections, appellate law, and patent litigation. So again, there's a whole range of topics that he is an expert on. He is very successful in trial courts, very successful in appellate courts all throughout Texas, where he is licensed to practice. He is also admitted to practice, of course, for the U.S. District Court of the Eastern District of Texas. He's a member of the Texas Trial Lawyers Association, the American Association for Justice, as well as a number of bar associations, including the Northern Texas, Gregg County, Smith County, and Harrison County. He also, of course, is active in his community. He does works with United Way. He works with Junior Achievement, etc. So question number one I always like to ask Casey before we do anything else is, what did I miss?
Oh man, there's a lot of stuff.
There's always a lot of stuff.
I need to update that bio. It's been a while. Primarily, I'm licensed in all federal courts here in Texas. You've got to go through a process to get licensed in each specific district: Northern, Southern, Eastern, and Western. But I'm also, like I said, there's a couple of other things that I've been involved in the community-wise. I'm currently the president of Newgate Mission, which is a facility that provides meals to those that can't afford them, that don't have food at home. So that's been something that's near and dear to my heart, and I enjoy working with that. And so I've also got a wonderful wife and 2 kids that my son just turned 15 yesterday, so we have been blowing and going. And right now, as every parent knows out there, this is the witching hour as far as school is concerned. Winding down the school year and everything else. So a lot going on in addition to practicing law.
I feel you. We've got 5, and my oldest is about to turn 16. So. So Casey, what got you into law, and what got you particularly into the facets of law that you work in?
It's an interesting scenario that happened. I grew up in Marshall, which is it's 20 minutes away from Longview. We're up in Northeast Texas. And if you leave Dallas, go east on I-20, we're about 2 hours east of Dallas, and about an hour west of Shreveport, Louisiana. So I grew up in Marshall, which is right next door, fairly close. And one of the judges over there had a program that was called her summer bailiff program. And at the time, she would come in and she'd interview kids that were in college and had an interest in the law, and she would have them be her bailiff for the summer. Now, obviously, this was, I'm dating myself because this is before all of the increase in courthouse security. There were no metal detectors, anything like that. And so the guy that was there that was actual sheriff's deputy, she'd send him, he'd go on vacation, and I'd sit there in a coat and tie and sit at my little desk over there and say, all rise when the jury comes in, and announce court. And so I saw that and thought, man, this is really cool. I wouldn't mind doing this, being a courtroom lawyer. And I graduated from Baylor University with a finance degree, and then graduated college on a Saturday, started law school at Baylor on a Monday, and culture shock. So went straight into it and started working at a PI firm there after that in Tyler, which is about 30 minutes west of here. So East Texas, born and bred, and that's where I've been ever since.
Gotcha. So what areas of law do you think are your forte?
My forte is primarily personal injury, trial work, and then business and trust and estate trial work. It's kind of a unique situation that we have over here where there's a lot of different specialties in our office, but we have 2 or 3 lawyers that actually, when there's a dispute involving those areas, that we go to court and go to trial in those cases. So like I said, I like to have a good mix of the PI work, because in this day and age, if you're doing just strictly personal injury, you have you kind of have the volume practice, or you have very specific cases that you work on, product liability cases, that sort of thing. And then with my finance degree, I really enjoy the business and the trust and estate part of that, just because of the business aspect involved with it. I'm a numbers guy, so the hardest thing to me about law school was the fact that, when you're doing finance work, I can tell you the present value of $24,222.22 10 years from now at 3.25% interest. I mean, that's a finite number. It is what it is. And if you're off 10 cents, you're wrong. So going to law school, I was like, okay, well, the answer is this. The answer is this. There's only one answer. Well, if there was anything about law school that it taught me to do, was just think in a totally different manner, that no, it's not necessarily that way. It could be this way, and this way. So like I said, I just enjoy the business side of things, in addition to helping people that have been, catastrophically injured as a result of someone else's negligence.
Gotcha. So obviously the business degree is going to be part of this answer, but what do you think separates you from other attorneys in your field, both niche wise in business law and injury law, but also, in and around the Texas area where you are?
Yeah, I think it's the tenacity and the hands-on aspect of what I do. I do all my work. We have other lawyers here that help, that have their own cases, but my clients have my cell phone number. Most of them do. If they need me, they call me, and then I work as hard as I can and as fast as I can on their case, and to get the result that they need, because every case is different. Not every case is the same. If somebody comes in, you don't just go to a mill and hand you off to somebody and then they go through a process and this happens. We have a very specific process. I work with my paralegal and the other paralegals in the firm to do what we have to do for our clients. And then if it doesn't get resolved in the personal injury aspect, if that doesn't get resolved, then, we don't hesitate to file a lawsuit and go to trial. But the thing I like is that my clients call me repeatedly. And once you do a good job for somebody, you're their lawyer. I mean, somebody I represented in a personal injury case that had his leg mangled by a forklift. I mean, I can't tell you how many other things I've done for him since then.
Yeah.
Including, estate planning, got him out of a couple leases, this, that, or the other, couple traffic tickets. You just do what you can for your clients, and you do a great job for them, and you're their lawyer for life.
Yeah. That's interesting because, with PI law, I would imagine generally you don't see the same client over and over again unless you do PI and other things. I would imagine with business law, it would make a lot of sense to see one client repeatedly because you're their business liaison in a sense, or business legal liaison. But I guess if you do PI law and you do business law, and it happens to be a business owner who is injured, and you meet them the first way, then they can transfer over to the second. That's kind of an interesting path to becoming a client.
Sometimes. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but sometimes they're business owners that have employees who've been hurt, and so they'll call me. The business owners themselves have family members that will get hurt, and they'll call me. So not only that, the nature of our firm is such that we have a real estate lawyer, one guy that does strictly estate planning and probate, and then a couple of other litigators that handle general civil litigation. So we pretty much do everything here. There's a lawyer that can help, with the exception of family law and criminal law. Now, one of the lawyers that we've got working here used to be the first assistant district attorney, so he could do it if he wanted to, but it's not something that we actively seek.
Gotcha. So I know that obviously for the last couple of years, we've all been last year, we've been under the aegis of COVID. It's been something that kind of affects our life on a day-to-day basis. I've talked to a lot of different attorneys who've experienced a lot of different ramifications of COVID and lockdowns and how it affects them, both from how they communicate with their clients to the issues their clients face to going to court, et cetera. So I know Texas has been kind of unique in the way that it's handled the COVID crisis and the shutdowns, et cetera. How's the pandemic affected you guys down there?
It's really affected us as far as trying to push cases along to go to trial. There's been a huge backlog, and I think there was a fairly big backlog before to get cases to trial. But now that the courts are opening up, you have the criminal defendants who, some of them are in jail, some of them are out on bond, that are waiting to go to trial. And so they may have been arrested, may have been in jail for, this whole year. And, you have the Speedy Trial Act. So can't really do that in the middle of a pandemic, but, those guys are going to need to have their trials first. I think I read an article the other day down, I think it's a judge down in Corpus Christi that was saying, which is southeast of here. And she was saying that she thought it was going to take like 4 years of just nonstop trials to get rid of her backlog. So who knows how that is, but I will say that the judges here and around East Texas have done a fantastic job of moving cases along with Zoom. You can have a hearing if you want on most anything. There for the longest time last year, you couldn't go to court. So if you had to have a trial, or a hearing, it was by Zoom. Now, the hard part of that is, I'm sure other lawyers told you, is when you have witnesses that you have to question, and then you've got the technical issues and that sort of thing that come up. I was questioning one guy in a hearing, and all of a sudden, a bathroom door flies open. His wife comes out only in a towel from the waist down, and she didn't know that he was going to be testifying that day. So the judge promptly shut that down, thank goodness. But it's an interesting thing that we've got, and I don't see Zoom going away, especially for, routine types of hearings. It's easier probably on the judges, on the litigants, and on the attorneys, especially if you have cases that are out of town. It cuts down on the travel time
Yeah.
and could make things easier for the clients. The one thing that that's interesting that has not caught on around here, and it doesn't seem that it's caught on nationwide, is the whole virtual trial thing. I think that's, it's good in theory because you're actually having a trial, but in practice it's just impossible to recreate the actual trial that you'd have in a courtroom.
Yeah.
Just because and I think it's just by virtue of having a captive audience.
Yeah.
And then having the witnesses testify and that sort of thing.
I've heard multiple attorneys say that, and we're here on Zoom, obviously, which is it's a great way to simulate face-to-face discussion. Obviously, we're like 600 miles apart or whatever it happens to be, but of course, you can't actually do eye contact. I'm waiting for the day that they invent a screen that has a camera right behind where the eyes are or something, so you can actually look someone in the eye. Because when I'm looking you in the eye, I'm not looking you in the eye, and when I'm looking you in the eye, I'm not looking you in the eye.
Yeah,
which is kind of funny.
That's definitely been the hardest part of this interview. I can tell you that, because usually I'm used to looking at you on the screen, but not at the camera. So
yeah,
it's one of those things you just have to get used to.
Yeah, well, we'll see where it goes. I think I've heard a lot of attorneys say they think it's speeding up a lot of the busy work, including certain hearings and whatnot, and they like that aspect of it, and allows the certain things to process faster, maybe so we can focus on the trial stuff, and then they can do that a little more cautiously or whatnot moving forward. But I'm sure that there are some people who are going to be completely denied justice just because they can never get their day in court, and some people are going to be waiting an extra 2 or 3 years and then pass on or get the coronavirus, or who knows what'll happen. But
I've unfortunately had, gosh, let me think, 3 clients pass away
oh wow,
for coronavirus, and had no idea until I read the paper.
Oh wow.
Saw their name in the paper. So yeah, that's affected me somewhat. I've been lucky personally, and not had anybody that's been adversely affected by it.
Mhm.
So excuse me.
Bless you. Not a problem. So one of the things that I like to stress on this podcast is, failure is only a failure if you give into it, right? It's something that we all face. I'm a business owner myself. I've definitely failed a few times in my life. In fact, my first 3 businesses all eventually just kind of went kaput. That's just how it goes. Though I'm very, successful now and very happy with what I'm doing. And I know that in the practice of law, obviously we want attorneys that win more often than they lose. Every attorney wants to win more often than they lose, but very few people bat 1,000. That's totally fine. Can you tell our listeners something they like to hear is, let us know a time that you failed, in a sense, but obviously it's only a fail again if you give up. So if you learn a lesson from it and you move forward and it changes things, it's a slow burn win, right? So tell us about a time that maybe you had something that felt like a fail or a major setback, but taught you something in the process.
Yeah. Golly, there's been it's been a while, but excuse me, I had a case where I represented an apartment complex that was a Section 8 apartment complex. So the people that were there had housing, and the lady ended up getting a legal aid lawyer who's a good lawyer, and my client was just adamant that, by gosh, this lady, needed to go for these various reasons. And it was pretty minute, but you try to represent your client to the best of your ability and represent them zealously. So she thought that she had enough evidence to evict her from the apartment complex. Well, when you have Section 8 housing, it's a right under the Constitution to that housing once you're actually, approved for that. So it's a difficult process to evict someone. Long story short, we go through a trial. and I won. And I thought, well, this will be the end of it. Well, they appeal it, and they got overturned on appeal. But the main thing I learned from that was the fact that just because you think that you have everything licked, everything about the case and the law, there's in that particular instance, and whenever you think you've got it won and you think you've got it made, you've got to make sure that you've got all your bases covered in order to protect something from an adverse ruling later on. That's mainly in the practice of law, as far as one of the biggest failures that I've had. So that about the one that comes to mind, at least, so to speak. I've had a couple of other cases that I thought I should have won, I lost, but from those, all you do is you gain confidence, and you go, well, I'll do that differently next time. The first time you try a case, I mean, you're nervous as you can be, and you may stutter, you may stammer, and you don't want to seem like you're nervous. Well, nowadays I've gotten where I go, look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm nervous. I'm nervous for my client. I'm nervous for this case. So if something happens and I make a mistake or I seem nervous, I'll calm down. So but you get that out there, and you're not lying to them, because you're telling them exactly how you feel.
You're owning it, in fact.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of times people go out there, well, lawyers don't get nervous. Well, if you've got a trial and their life's on the line or their business is on the line, and you've got a lot of, a lot at stake, then, anybody that is human would go into a situation like that, wanting to do your best and wanting the best outcome for your client. So naturally you put a lot of pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
But that just comes with the job, comes with the territory.
Gotcha. Well, that makes sense. And, there's something to be said. There's a real wisdom there in humility. People like humble people in general. And so admitting in those situations that, I'm feeling a little nervous here, I can see how that actually would be a very beneficial thing. So I like that.
There's difference between being, you can still be confident.
Yes.
But you may just be, you don't know the outcome of something, but you're confident that you're going to do a good job.
Yep.
So that's the only part of the nerves. And that's what I tell clients all the time, is that if I could offer you odds on what a jury would do, I would not be doing this. I would be in Vegas putting odds on jury trials, because you just don't know.
Yeah.
And, I believe in the system. I think it works, but it's just an unknown. And, you're trying to bring certainty to an uncertain situation, and, to the best and the best outcome for your client.
Gotcha. No, it makes sense. Yeah. I think that, I'm all of a sudden imagining the backroom betting of various attorneys on cases.
You imagine? Yeah.
So
exactly.
Well, let's put the shoe on the other foot then for a minute. Then humility is great, but take a minute and brag. Tell us about a case you're really proud of, one that you maybe even went better than you thought it was going to go.
Yeah, I think of one of them. I had a Hispanic gentleman that was working at a chicken processing plant, and he got hurt, pretty badly hurt on the job. And, they made him sign a waiver, made him sign it in English, and he couldn't read English. And so, of course, we go to court, and they moved to kick the case out, saying that, well, hell, he signed it. Shouldn't have mattered if he couldn't read English or not. He should have signed it. He shouldn't have signed it if he didn't understand what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to get a ruling around that the court agreed with me that the waiver he signed was no good, and we were able to get a successful outcome for him at a mediation. So that was very satisfying, because the other lawyer he had before I got hired, told him there's really nothing he could do for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, you can. Recently I had one where uh, family came to me. Their father died, and the property that he had was being foreclosed on. And she was like, "You're the third lawyer I've called, and lawyers are telling me that they can't do anything. They can't stop the process."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, send me the paperwork. Let me take a look at it." And sure enough, they didn't do what they were supposed to do. And I got the process stopped. It's about the only asset they had for their father in the estate. And so got the process stopped. The house is on the market and it's going to be sold. Now he still owed money because he had a mortgage on the house, but it's not one of those situations that all the money is going to go to the mortgage company because of their screw up.
Gotcha.
So they're very happy. Here recently, I've had another case where, like I said, the gentleman got hurt on the job as a result of somebody else's negligence driving a forklift. And, they were adamant that they did nothing wrong. And finally, they saw the error of their ways, and we were able to get the case resolved. He was extremely happy. Like the same, just another forklift case, but similar to the same one I was talking about before.
Gotcha. You see a lot of forklift cases, or is that I mean, heavy equipment?
No, just got lucky on those. So
that's interesting. So what's something that you wish you would have known at the beginning of your legal career that you kind of found out the hard way, or if you can go back and give fresh out of law school, Casey, a little piece of advice? What advice would you give yourself?
Golly.
Other than buy a lot of Bitcoin.
Yes. Yeah. I'm trying to not have the remorse on that. So I'm into the Dogecoin now. So that's a big deal.
I actually had 350,000 Dogecoins, and Robinhood froze my account when it was jumping up to 10 cents back in the day. So it tripled in cost, and I couldn't buy it. Like, I was buying and selling repeatedly. And so I should have 350,000 Dogecoin, which hit 60 cents today.
Yeah.
And I only have like 3,000 because of what they did to my account. It was entirely not my fault, but there's apparently nothing I can do. So it's obnoxious. So I understand the remorse.
Yeah. The, things I'd do differently. Probably just looking back, I don't know that I would have graduated on a Saturday and started law school on Monday. I think I'd have taken a little time off to maybe do something else for a little bit. But that's neither here nor there. But the thing I wish that people ought to know is, no matter how hard a lawyer tries to push their case, there's only it can only go so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And really it's the speed at which things progress in cases that I wish I would have known coming in, because, I told you before, when I worked as the bailiff, well, I just saw the cake, the end product. I didn't see the discovery. I didn't see the motions. I didn't see everything that went on, and, the, excuse me, days and weeks and months and years before that to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes I envy a buddy of mine that's a dentist, because, so, man, that must be nice that you can have a client come in, a patient come in, and they have a tooth problem. They sit down in that chair, and then they're done with that tooth problem.
Yeah.
And until they come in for the next tooth problem. The way this works is, I plant a tree, and, by, talking about a case or something like that, well, that, you try to resolve them or get them tried as quickly as you can. But in the real world, it just doesn't happen like it did on Boston Legal, where the client comes in on a Tuesday and you're trying that case on Friday.
Yeah.
I don't know that would have really changed anything, but
it would affect your expectations.
Correct.
That's a good
Sure.
thing. That's a good thing. So what's one of the longest or largest cases you've ever worked on? What's one that maybe took you the most amount of time, the most investment of your energy to solve, that you can talk about, obviously?
Let me think. one of the largest was and took the longest. I'm just trying to think of the one that comes to mind. Was a fatality wreck where a driver fell asleep at the wheel and crossed the road and killed my client's husband coming home from a well site. He'd fallen asleep, so the guy was negligent.
Yeah.
The crazy, and somebody told me a long time ago that cases never look the as good as they do on the first day they walk in the door.
Right.
So an issue I had in that particular case was the unbeknownst to me, the client and her husband had filed for pro se divorce about a week and a half before the wreck. So obviously my job was to show no, they were getting back together and everything was going to work out. Well, their job was to show that the marriage was on the rocks, obviously, and probably would not have made it because they had intended to file for divorce. They ended up, we flew all over the United States taking depositions of individuals that just, and it just turned into the Salem witch trial. That's what I told my client, is that this is going to be that, because they had no children together. Now, he was going to support her financially, but then you had a number that you could put on that, but one number that you can't put on things is the emotional loss of emotional affection, love, companionship, and that sort of thing. Well, if their theme was there was no love lost here at all. Mm-hmm. And so that took quite a while. And what I thought was a really good case turned out, it got worse and worse and worse. We ended up getting it resolved for a good amount. My client was very satisfied given the circumstances, but it just kept dragging and dragging because they wanted more and more people to basically pile on her, to say that there was this marriage was not going to make it. Mm-hmm. So I worked on a toxic tort case right out of law school for a firm, and that lasted the better part of 3 years, I think. So, wow. Constant depositions and constant hearings and all that, which is not the norm, but worked on that when it ended up getting resolved after, I think, 3 days of trial. So it's hopefully now that the courts are opening up, things will start progressing, proceeding to trial. The judges around here have been really good about having trials now. You have the trial or the voir dire at a convention center, and mm-hmm. everybody's spread out. And so then the jurors are spread out as well in the courtroom. They have masks, they have partitions set up, clear partitions between the witnesses and the judges and the court reporter. Masking is required, but you can take your mask off to talk, so it's not that hard. So all the judges, like I said, have been really good around here about getting things as back to normal as we can, which is what everybody wants.
Yeah, I think that's what we're all kind of dying for at this point, living for, rather. Maybe we shouldn't say dying for. Yeah. Well, here in a minute, Casey, I'm going to ask you the old magic wand question. I want to know, I'm sure you face a lot of issues in the law. You butt heads with statutes, or you butt heads with just various facets of the law that either frustrate you or they frustrate your clients and prevent optimal turnout for you or for your clients. So I'll let you think about that for a minute. But first, I'm going to jump back over, show your website, and then do a read from our second sponsor here. So again, Boon Law is is the website, boonlaw.com. We again will have a link to that down in the show notes below. And they do a lot of different aspects of law. We've been talking a lot about business law and personal injury today, which are two of Casey's specialties. So our second sponsor today is going to be Rocket SEO from hundreds of customers. Are you a business owner who knows that being on page one of Google is important, but you're afraid to work with a search engine optimization company because you know that SEO is both expensive and slow? Well, it doesn't have to be. Not anymore. Rocket SEO from hundreds of customers forces you to page one of Google safely and legally through the power of the news media. Rocket SEO utilizes national news media campaigns across a gamut that rank instantly inside of Google. You can boost your website ranking in Google in 1 week or less with a simple system that leverages the power of major media outlets like ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox affiliates, as well as local news sites ranging from the Boston Herald to the Sacramento Bee and all stops in between across the United States to put you on page one of Google in under a week, oftentimes 2 or 3 times on page one, and many times dozens of different keywords ranking in the same media campaign. To learn more, visit hundredsofcustomers.com/rocket or email press@hundredsofcustomers.com. That's hundredsofcustomers.com/rocket. All right. So Casey, let's talk about the magic wand I just handed you. You can fix something in the law that frustrates you or that frustrates your clients. You can fix something right now just by waving this wand that'll make your life or your clients' lives easier. What are you going to fix?
Golly.
And if you need a genie lamp instead, I can give you a genie lamp.
I need the genie to rub is, I think if I could fix anything, it would be, it would get me out of a job. I mean, I wouldn't be needed, but it would just be people treating others as they would want to be treated themselves. I mean, there's really not a statute because I can't really waive. I could go into great detail on some laws that I don't agree with. There's some, some things that are potentially happening right now in the Texas legislature that could have very, very bad effects on people who are injured by 18-wheelers. But I'm not going to go into that. But I think in this particular instance, if people just would, take care of their own business, take care of themselves, and, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're driving, if you want to be treated the way that in a good way, don't text and drive. I mean, you're expecting other people not to do that, so don't do it. If you're a representative of an estate, I've been doing here lately quite a bit of trust and estate litigation where you have people that owe fiduciary duties to the people that they're working for. You have a brother or sister who's the executor of their father's estate, or over a trust or trustee of a trust, and so they go in and they mismanage things or they take things for themselves. Well, if you're in that position, or if you were a beneficiary, you wouldn't want anybody taking something that wasn't yours.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't want to be stolen from. So I think that if everybody could step back for a little bit and, just think before you act. Like I said, I would be out of a job. That's not going to happen because it's human nature.
Yeah.
But a lot of this stuff I see, I'm just like, man, what were you thinking? Because they weren't thinking. They weren't thinking at all.
Yeah.
So that's probably what I'd change. Now I know it's
kind of the world peace answer, but that's fine.
Miss America. Yeah.
What's your idea of a perfect date? April 25th.
Yes. Exactly.
No, that's fine though. It makes sense, and it's something that we all struggle with. And of course, the change has to happen from within ourselves. So it's something that we should all be working on, including learning from our failures and obviously just being good people. And of course, here on the Attorney Post, we want to encourage all of our listeners to be good people, right? Don't be the type of person who needs a lawyer because you're a bad person. Be the type of person who needs a lawyer only because other people are bad. And of course, that's human nature. Unfortunately, we do have to deal with with lots of things, but that's why we have attorneys out there as well. So Casey, let me just ask you one or two more questions here, and then we can probably wrap this up. I know you've got other things to get done as well. What's a common myth that people have about working with an attorney, especially an attorney who specializes in your aspects of the law, particularly business, litigation, and personal injury? What's a big myth or misconception people have about what you do that you'd like to have dispelled?
Well, I think that a lot of myths out there are that lawyers are in it just for the money, that clients are a number, something to be, just a file, and that nobody really cares about you. But I think nothing's further from the truth. And not only for me, but other lawyers out there, because we've got, we have ethical duties to our clients. We can't just, run things like a business, and you've got inventory and that sort of thing. You owe duties to that inventory of your clients. And so each one's different. Each one has their own set of issues. And so I think that there's no one size fits all for every client out there, that each lawyer is different. But I think that the personal touch and the hard work that we put into our cases and on behalf of our clients is what would set us apart.
All right. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to meet with me and share some of your advice and wisdom and a couple of really interesting stories with our listeners. I think that they all really enjoyed it. I always like
That's
to
one
give.
thing the law is, if nothing, it is extremely interesting. I say that.
Sometimes it's really, really boring sections of code. I've seen that, but I think the way humans interact with the law, I think, is where the law becomes really fascinating.
Let me clarify that. The law, yes, that's dry as can be. The clients are what make it interesting.
There you go. Well, Casey, I always like to let my guests have the last words. Is there any parting wisdom or parting thoughts you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Just I think that depending on what you've got going, research the lawyer that you're gonna use. You get referrals. Ask questions. Don't hesitate to get a second opinion. So I think that, like everything else, there's not I don't know that there very well may be a YouTube video on how to get a lawyer. I mean, I think with all the ads on TV, it's pretty self-explanatory. But I think that, do your research and find a lawyer that fits with what you want, not just what somebody says on TV.
Gotcha. That makes perfect sense. Well, once again, Casey, thank you very much for taking time to talk with me today. I've been talking with Casey Goolsby, who is a partner over at Boon, Calk, Echols, Coleman and Goolsby, PLLC. They practice down they're in northeastern Texas, but they do serve clients all across the state of Texas. You've been listening to The Attorney Post. You can find us online at theattorneypost.com. Also, you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts, including on YouTube here, as well as Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Audible, etc. We're all over the place. And of course, if you like what we're doing, please feel free to give us a like, subscribe, and a share. It always helps the podcast grow. And until next time, remember, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. Thank you for listening, guys, and have a good one.